Great white shark. Say shark to almost anyone, and this is the image that pops into their head. Gray torpedo body, black eyes, that unmistakable silhouette gliding just beneath the surface. The great white cruises the coastal waters of temperate regions. California, South Africa, Southern Australia, you name it. And honestly, it's built like nothing else in the ocean. That shape isn't just for show. It's a hydrodynamic masterpiece, the kind of design engineers still study. And it lets the shark go from a slow patrol to an explosive burst of speed in what feels like an instant. Here's the thing people almost always get wrong. They picture a mindless killing machine, something straight out of a summer blockbuster. But that's not really who these animals are. Great whites are calculated, patient. Seals and sea lions make up a big part of the diet, along with plenty of fish. And that famous breach, the one where the shark's entire body rockets out of the water, isn't some dramatic flex. It's a hunting tactic. The shark is ambushing prey from below, building up so much speed that momentum just carries it airborne. Less movie monster, more elite athlete running a very specific play.
Tiger shark. If the great white is a specialist, the tiger shark is the ultimate generalist, the animal that never met a meal it didn't like. It gets its name from the dark, tiger-like stripes running down its body as a juvenile, stripes that fade as the shark grows older. You'll find them cruising warm and tropical waters pretty much everywhere. What really sets this species apart is the sheer range of what it's willing to eat. Fish, sea turtles, seabirds, crustaceans. And yes, the stories about license plates and tires turning up in their stomachs are true. Not urban legend, not exaggeration. That's just how indiscriminate their feeding habits can get. Part of the secret is the jaw. It's strong enough to crack a turtle shell wide open, which is honestly kind of humbling when you think about how tough those shells actually are.
Hammerhead shark. You'd spot a hammerhead from a mile away. And that's really the whole point of the design. That wide, flattened head, the technical term is cephalofoil, if you want to sound smart at a dinner party, isn't some random evolutionary accident. It spreads the shark's sensory organs across a much wider area, giving it something close to panoramic vision and an enhanced ability to pick up the faint electrical signals that prey give off, even when they're buried in sand. There are several species under the hammerhead umbrella, and most of them spend their time patrolling the seafloor, hunting fish, squid, crustaceans, and one favorite meal in particular, stingrays. There's actual footage out there of hammerheads pinning stingrays down with that oddly shaped head before going in for the bite. Strange looking design, works incredibly well.
Whale shark. Now here's a plot twist. The whale shark is the largest fish in the ocean. Some individuals stretch past 40 feet, and yet it's about as harmless as a shark can possibly be. No sharp teeth doing the heavy lifting, no aggressive hunting behavior. This gentle giant is a filter feeder, drifting through tropical and warm temperate waters with its enormous mouth wide open, straining plankton, small fish, and other tiny organisms straight out of the water column. Divers who've swum next to a whale shark tend to describe it as strangely peaceful. There's something almost surreal about floating beside an animal the size of a school bus that genuinely could not hurt you even if it tried. On paper, the size is intimidating. In the water, it might be one of the calmest animals you'll ever share space with.
Bull shark. Bull sharks break a rule most people assume applies to every shark on Earth. They don't actually need the ocean. This species tolerates both saltwater and freshwater, and it's been documented swimming hundreds of miles up rivers, far from any coastline you'd expect to find a shark near. There are records of bull sharks showing up in freshwater systems deep inland, which tends to surprise people the first time they hear it. Pair that freshwater tolerance with a thick, stocky body and powerful jaws, and you get one of the more physically imposing sharks in the water. Bull sharks go after fish, turtles, birds, and other prey, and their willingness to move between wildly different environments makes them one of the more unpredictable species for researchers to study. Their adaptability is still considered one of the more remarkable stories in shark biology.
Mako shark. If sharks had a speed record, the Mako would own it outright. This is the fastest shark in the ocean. Full stop. Streamlined body, sharply pointed snout, a tail built purely for explosive acceleration. Makos turn up in temperate and tropical waters worldwide, and they need every bit of that speed, because what they're chasing, tuna, squid, is fast and agile enough to outrun most other predators. Watching a Mako hunt is a little like watching a sprinter at the top of their game. No wasted motion, no slow buildup, just raw acceleration aimed precisely at prey that's already trying to escape, and more often than not, failing.
Nurse shark. Not every shark is built for speed, and the nurse shark makes that abundantly clear. This species spends a lot of its time resting motionless near the seafloor in warm coastal waters, often stacked together in small groups under ledges or tucked into caves. It looks almost lazy next to its more athletic relatives, but don't let the relaxed lifestyle fool you. Nurse sharks have a small mouth paired with surprisingly powerful suction, which they use to pull fish, squid, and crustaceans directly out of tight crevices where other predators simply can't reach. It's a patient, low-energy strategy. Why chase prey across open water when you can just wait for the ocean to hand it to you?
The Thresher shark. The Thresher shark has one feature you genuinely cannot miss: an upper tail lobe so long it can rival the length of the rest of its body. That tail isn't just there for swimming either.
Thresher sharks use it like a weapon, whipping it through schools of fish with startling speed and force to stun or disorient prey before circling back around to feed. It's one of the more theatrical hunting strategies in the entire shark world, and footage of it looks almost choreographed, like something out of a nature documentary's highlight reel. Found in oceans around the globe, Thresher sharks are also strong, capable swimmers on their own. The tail is just the flashiest part of the toolkit.
Goblin shark. Few animals look as genuinely alien as the goblin shark. Its long, flattened snout juts out ahead of a mouth that can shoot forward with startling speed to snatch prey. A mechanism scientists sometimes call slingshot feeding, and honestly, that's a pretty accurate name for it. It's not something you'd expect outside of a horror movie, and yet it's completely real. Goblin sharks live deep in the ocean, far below where sunlight ever reaches, in conditions about as different from a sunny coastal reef as you can imagine. Because they live at such extreme depths, sightings are rare, and most of what we know comes from occasional encounters with fishing vessels that happen to pull one up. It remains one of the strangest looking predators science has ever documented.
Greenland shark. Somewhere in the frigid waters of the North Atlantic and Arctic, there are Greenland sharks swimming right now that were already alive before your great-great-grandparents were born. This slow-moving, deep-water species has an extraordinarily slow metabolism, and scientists now believe some individuals can live for several centuries, making them the longest-lived vertebrates known to science. That longevity is directly tied to the cold, low-energy world they inhabit. Everything about the Greenland shark's biology runs on a different clock than the rest of the animal kingdom, and researchers are still trying to fully understand how it manages to persist for so long. It's one of those facts that sounds made up until you see the research behind it. Blue shark. If sharks had a fashion category, the blue shark would win it hands down. It's got a slender, elegant build and a deep indigo blue coloring on top that fades into a crisp white underneath. Genuinely one of the more striking color patterns in the ocean. You'll find them in temperate and tropical waters worldwide, often far offshore in the open ocean rather than hugging the coastline. Blue sharks are wanderers. Some individuals migrate thousands of miles across entire ocean basins, following currents and prey. They mostly feed on squid and small fish, using long, slender pectoral fins to glide efficiently through open water with barely any wasted energy. There's something almost meditative about watching one move. No burst of speed, no aggression, just this smooth, continuous glide that seems built for distance rather than sudden violence.
Lemon shark. The lemon shark gets its name from its pale yellow-brown skin, which blends in surprisingly well with the sandy seafloor of the shallow coastal waters and mangroves it prefers. You'll mostly find them in the western Atlantic and eastern Pacific, hanging around reefs, bays, and river mouths. What makes lemon sharks especially interesting to researchers is their social behavior. They're one of the more well-studied species when it comes to group dynamics among sharks. They've been observed forming loose social groups, occasionally hunting in the same general area, and even showing signs of what some scientists describe as learning from one another. That's not something people usually associate with sharks, but the evidence keeps piling up that these animals are more socially complex than the solitary predator stereotype suggests.
Blacktip reef shark. Smaller, quicker, and a familiar sight to divers around coral reefs, the blacktip reef shark is easy to identify thanks to the dark tips on its dorsal and tail fins, hence the name. It prefers shallow, warm waters throughout the Indo-Pacific, often patrolling reef flats and lagoons where the water barely reaches waist deep. Blacktips feed mainly on small fish, cephalopods, and crustaceans, using speed and agility rather than brute strength to corner prey in tight reef environments. They're skittish around humans, often darting away at the first sign of movement, which makes them a poor match for the aggressive predator reputation sharks tend to carry. If anything, they're some of the more cautious, easily spooked sharks in the ocean.
Megamouth shark. And finally, one of the true rarities of the shark world, the megamouth. Discovered only in 1976, this deep-sea filter feeder is so rarely seen that fewer than a couple hundred confirmed sightings exist worldwide. Even decades later, it shares the filter-feeding lifestyle of the whale shark and basking shark, but it's built very differently. A large, soft, blubbery body with an enormous mouth built for engulfing plankton and small jellyfish in the deep ocean. Megamouths are believed to migrate vertically each day, staying deep during daylight hours and rising closer to the surface at night to feed, following the same daily migration patterns as the plankton they eat. Because encounters are so rare, much of what scientists know still comes from a small handful of specimens, and new sightings tend to make headlines in the marine biology world every single time.